Hi, my name is Andrea Herrera and I am going to be doing my presentation on stress in the workplace. First, let's start off with what worker stress, work overload, and burnout are. Worker stress is the physiological and psychological reactions to events that are perceived to be threatening or demanding to the body. Work overload is defined as being a common source of stress, resulting when a job requires excessive speed, output, or concentration from its worker. Lastly, burnout is a syndrome resulting from prolonged exposure to worker stress that leads to withdrawal from the job. As you can see, these three are interconnected because one does lead to the other. A real-life work-related problem I experienced myself this past year was when I was working a part-time barista job here on campus. Some of the factors that contributed to the high levels of stress I was experiencing were not being properly trained for the position I was hired for. I did have to learn everything on the spot, which made working the job more difficult. I had a manager that was hard to contact, and when I was able to come in contact with her, she was not much help to the stress and difficulties I was experiencing at work. I went from working 10 hours to 19.5 hours, which is the max you could work at an on-campus job. Along with taking 16 units and other extracurriculars and responsibilities I had, it was a lot to handle and balance. The job was so demanding and busy at times to the point where I could not even take a break, which did result in the dissatisfaction I had with my job. The job did become so stressful to the point that I did have to quit 2 months after because I wasn't able to balance everything. The textbook has a lot to say on worker stress. Some of the effects of stress are work-related illnesses that lead to absenteeism and turnover, and effects on psychological states. High levels of stress are associated with depression, anxiety, and chronic fatigue. The effects of work overload include high cholesterol levels and increased heart rate, low quality of work, and job dissatisfaction. Some of the effects of burnout are workers become less committed, absenteeism begins to occur, there is a decrease in work performance and a decrease in work quality as well. Job burnout does occur in 3 phases, which are emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, and low personal accomplishment. Emotional exhaustion is caused by excessive demands placed on the worker. Depersonalization is the development of an insensitive attitude towards others, such as coworkers or customers. And low personal accomplishments are feelings of frustration and helplessness. The journal article I read was a study on occupational nurses and their view on work-related stress. It was a cross-sectional study done by Amoroso and Lira. Work-related stress is a major occupational problem due to its negative influence on workers' health and productivity. Work-related stress is also common among employees and causes psychological overload. So the purpose of the study was to examine how occupational nurses in Finland manage work-related stress. The method used was open-ended interviews with burnout questionnaires to assess the stress of the employees. 354 occupational nurses participated. The results included the average age of workers experiencing stress, which was 45 years old, and they also had worked in the occupational health field for on average 15 years. Another result was that work-related stress is influenced at both the organizational and individual level, as it does contribute to illness and injury that results in increased costs for businesses. Most of the participants also reported that there were no standardized protocols to assess work-related stress in their workplaces. One of the results showed an increase in demand for use of stress prevention and management programs in their workplaces. However, there was no evidence found on how workplace programs should be focused to reduce environmental, psychological, and occupational stressors. Some of the solutions to worker stress, as mentioned in Amoroso and Lira, are cognitive behavioral therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy for stress rests on the premise that it's not simply the events we experience that cause stress, but also the way we think about them. CBT works for one to recognize and alter negative thought patterns. A solution to worker stress, as mentioned in the Riggio text, is individual coping strategies such as exercising, relaxation, and meditation. Fixing work conditions that cause stress is also another solution to reducing worker stress, as well as stress management counseling prevention programs that should be set in place in order to help prevent worker stress.